Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with some more Warhammer free gameplay. We started a new series focusing on all the different new laws of magic coming into the game. We've already looked at Slaanesh and now we look towards Papa Nurgle and his lore. So with this video what we're going to do is we're going to look at all of the individual spells, what their effects are, how you can use them in battle, and so on. There's a few because the lore of Nurgle is quite varied, so let's not waste any more time and jump right in. So we'll work our way clockwise and start off with Curse of the Leper, which is an augment spell. This increases armor and melee damage reflection by a certain amount, as you can see on screen right now. And when overcasted, it once again increases value of both armor and melee damage reflection. The purpose of this spell is to make your tanky demons even tankier, and yeah, that is actually possible. They can take a good punch as it is standard-wise, but to make them even more, this is going to make sure that you're not losing as many entities as possible, but you're also holding down your enemy in specific directions. So here what I'm doing is I'm fighting against some Cathayan units as per usual, and what I'm doing is I've got one unit of Plaguebearers getting the buff constantly, whilst the other one is fighting against some other Cathayans but with no buffs whatsoever, and you can already see that the damage is being done to both, but obviously the one that's getting the buff is pretty much able to hold its own. This is going to be quite useful for, say for example, Celestial Dragon Guard, even some Chaos Warriors. While I would say that this, yes, is not the most valuable spell in the Nurgle roster, having that ability to just buff something up and hold something down, which will then allow you to cast some spells in that direction and so on, you've got a lot of options here. Next we have Rancid Visitations. This is a direct damage spell which causes damage to combatants and is strong versus characters. If you then decide to overcast it, it increases the effect duration, meaning that it will do much more damage to single targets. The spell itself is pretty much like Soul Leech and so on, so if you've used that before, you know what to do, you know exactly how decent it is. It's fairly decent against, say for example, multiple entities too. It's not too bad. I'm going to show it off against some multi-entity things so you can see the effect a little better, because obviously it does have some really disgusting visuals, because yes, this is Nurgle, and it does decent damage. It's not great. You're obviously going to get a better output against characters. However, this does help if you're in a pinch and you want to weaken something. But you'll see casting it onto a single entity, say for example the Lord Magistrate here, or pretty much anything else which is a monster and that type of stuff, it will do a lot more damage, you'll get a lot more value out of it. It very much depends on what you want to use it for. Extra damage if you're desperate on some strong units. Yes, it's not the optimal way, but it will help a little bit. But yeah, if anything single entities around, obviously cast it on that. Obviously I've showed off both ways that you can use it because yeah, you can use it for both, just one is better than the other. It's definitely great for sniping, and you'll want to focus down enemy spellcasters, for example, and so on. I'd say the best time to use this type of spell is by having a spellcaster on a flying mount, so that way you can get around and actually hit something which is going to be further away. Or if you move your forces together as a wall of flesh, but keep in mind that your spellcaster on a flying mount might still be a target. This is the issue. You've got to also kind of think, well, I can use this spell, but how can I use it effectively without getting my spellcaster killed? Next we have Blightboil. Now this one's a really good spell. So it's an explosive spell which has a huge area effect. If you decide to overcast it, it will also increase its explosive damage by a fair amount too. This is a unit killer. This is great for multi-entities. This is great for any hordes that you've got scrunched up, as it's able to do a lot of damage. So we're going to test it out against some more Cathayans. There's a decent amount of them, so we can use this spell multiple times. They're just going to slam into my Plaguebearers, which is more or less what I want, is I want them to stay as still as possible, and then we'll cast the spell. The spell itself, as you can see, is pretty much just a massive boil and tentacles. Like, yeah, it looks kind of sickly, and it will just grow, and explode, doing a massive amount of damage, not only to pretty much any Cathayans there. As you can see, it can pretty much just delete 2 units, but it does a lot of damage to, say, my own Plaguebearers too. You've got to be very careful here, as these will hurt you, and it will do a lot of damage. Even though I had it not so close to my Plaguebearers, it did take out about a third, maybe about a quarter at the very least of HP from them. The damage is very, very strong. You've got to be very careful with positioning here, as it can easily screw you over. This is the best time to show it, as obviously some people will have that issue, especially if you're panicking during a very hectic fight. This can be your downfall, and it's just caused by yourself. As we're going with this, we can already talk about another spell known as Fleshy Abundance. This is a regeneration spell, so yeah, healing and all that type of stuff, and if you decide to overcast it, it turns into an area effect with a decent amount of area, so you do get a lot. Healing will be kind of important, especially for Nurgle, because you are slow. Let's just be very honest about that. You're slow, your forces aren't going to move very quickly, stuff can actually pick you out and so on, especially if you get surrounded or hit in multiple sides. So Nesh does have a pretty good hit against Nurgle if able to hit them from flanks and rears, so you want to be able to heal as soon as you bog down an enemy, as soon as you hold them, you can kill them. You're strong enough, but you'll need to actually keep your units up and running to be able to make sure that you can hit them back. Plus, you know, single entities, healing, you want to do Great Unclean One Doom stacks, you're going to need this spell, and yeah, it's pretty useful. Next we have Miasma of Pestilence, a hex spell which, if overcasted, could also become an area of effect. Now, its abilities are quite good, considering that it can reduce melee attack and charge bonus of different enemies. This is good against, say, for example, Khorne, Slaanesh, and even some Kithayans and Kislevites. Doing this on a single unit isn't too bad. Blobbing up your enemies and then doing this as an area effect is absolutely fantastic. Probably one of my favorite spells so far, mainly because I've been fighting a lot against, say, for example, Khornate factions, and taking out their melee attack or even their charge bonus sometimes does really much help. Obviously, planning to use the spell is quite important. You can do it whilst your enemies are already at you, meaning that they won't get the reduction of charge bonus, but they will get the reduction of melee attack. Or if you're quite good at planning out your spells, here's where you can do the spell prior and being able to make sure that they won't hit you quite hard on a charge. Any Skull Crushers, Blood Crushers, Seekers of Slaanesh, Hellstriders and so on, they'll not hit so hard. And obviously that's quite beneficial to you, as while you can take a punch, you'll want to reduce as much incoming hits as possible, won't you? I've found it much more valuable as an area of effect, but keep in mind that obviously with that means that there's a chance to miscast and your spellcasters can take some damage, so take the risk if you want to. And lastly we have Stream of Corruption, which is a breath weapon, kinda long and thin, it expands, it does get a decent radius, and it does quite a decent bit of damage. The great thing also is that it also poisons your enemy. You can see that poison does a lot of effects like reducing speed, reducing their armor piercing melee damage, and a few others. So you'll be able to do quite a decent amount of damage to your enemy, but also make them much weaker for a decent amount of time. Poison's around 10 seconds, but by that point your other stuff will be coming in. You've got a lot of other stuff that has poison too, so you're going to be able to keep that almost passively as you fight your enemy. Like I said before, Nurgle is very dangerous as soon as he gets up and close and starts punching. By overcasting, you'll be able to get a lot more armor-piercing damage, and really, it's a decent spell. Despite the fact that it might not sound too impressive, it's able to do a lot. You can see there that it does delete basic peasant infantry. Keep in mind that peasants are the weakest. However, you can see there, it's great against hordes. As long as you position it correctly and you know exactly where it's going to hit, you can do a lot of damage. Multiple spellcasters too, this works out very well. Positioning isn't that difficult because you do have a decent amount of range to be able to cast it too. While this is pretty much one of the first spells that you actually get, I've been using it surprisingly a lot, like throughout my whole campaign. It's very useful, being able to poison anything, especially if I've got something that might not have poison, or if I just need a little bit of an extra push. I'd say this is something that you definitely want to use constantly. Obviously, you do have a passive ability known as Children of Nurgle, which is regeneration in an area, which triggers obviously when you cast a spell. This then replenishes the hit points of combatants. You want to be able to use this. Healing is so important for Nurgle, I can't stress this enough. The more you can heal, the longer you're in the fight. You're going to be moving slowly, like I said before, wall of flesh, but again, you're very dangerous, so keep yourself up and going and you're perfectly fine. But that was it for the Lore of Nurgle. Surprisingly very multi-purpose, and it's something that you're going to be able to use quite often. I'd say this, then paired also with the Lore of Death, as that's the other lore that Nurgle gets access to, you can be quite the powerhouse and you can do a lot of damage. But with that being said, let me know what you think about the Lore of Nurgle and how you would use it in the comments below so we can start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.